Get her out of my lobby.
Now.
Manager Vance's voice sliced through the gilded hush of the 002 residences, his arm already extended, one manicured finger aimed at the revolving door like a verdict. He smoothed the lapel of his charcoal suit without looking down. Old habit. The hands stayed clean. Ma'am, let's go. Come on. The officer closed his grip around the old woman's back, not guiding, pushing. His jaw was set. His eyes were already somewhere else.
Please.
Her voice barely qualified as sound. She clutched the canvas bag tighter against her chest, her knuckles pale around the wooden cane. The tattered brown coat swallowed her whole, the hem dragging against the marble. I'm not bothering anyone. My boy told me to wait here. The place with the gold numbers. The 002. He promised. I don't care what he promised. Vance stepped back from the glass, already bored. You are a liability. Push her through. The revolving door swallowed her and spat her out onto the cold, wet pavement. Her cane caught the edge of the step. She stumbled. The black car at the curb had been idling for 11 seconds. The door opened.
Gran.
Welcome to Roses and Revolvers, where every story leaves a scar. If stories like this keep you on the edge of your seat, hit subscribe and comment where you are watching from, because the next one might be even darker. The word didn't echo. It landed. Every head on that sidewalk turned. The officer, the doorman, the woman frozen mid-stumble on the wet marble step. Even the city seemed to inhale and hold it. George didn't run. Men like George don't run. But his body was already moving before his mind caught up, closing the distance in 4 long strides, his jaw locked so tight a vein surfaced at his temple. He caught her before the cane gave out completely, one hand bracing her elbow, the other gripping her shoulder like she might dissolve if he held on any looser. She smelled like rain and cold, and something he hadn't encountered in 3 years, something that cracked him straight down the middle. Lavender soap.
Gran.
His voice dropped an octave below anything human. Gran, look at me. Her clouded eyes drifted up slowly. Searched his face the way you search a room you half remember. Then a flicker. Small and devastating. George? She whispered. I saved you something. She pressed a trembling hand into her coat pocket. Asterisk, you always got so hungry. Behind him, the officer reached out and grabbed his arm. George's eyes dropped to the hand on his arm. The officer felt it before he understood it, a shift in atmospheric pressure, the way the air changes before lightning decides where to strike. He released his grip. Walk away. George didn't raise his voice.
He didn't need to.
The words came from somewhere beneath speech, from the same place that had made grown men sign over properties and careers without fully understanding why. Walk away from her. Right now. The officer stepped back. 1 step. Then 2. Vance had appeared at the glass by then, arms folded, his expression still arranged in that particular cruelty that only comfort and cowardice can produce together. He was already reaching for his phone. George noted it, filed it, said nothing. He turned back to his grandmother. And then George Callahan, the man whose name made city councilmen nervous, whose patience had ended careers and begun silences that lasted years, went down on both knees on the cold, dirty sidewalk. His pinstriped trousers pressed into the grime. He didn't flinch. He took her face in both hands, studied every line the years had carved there without him. I've got you, he said. I've got you now. She patted his cheek with one frail hand and smiled like no time had passed at all, like she'd simply stepped outside for a moment. Inside his jacket, his phone lit up. His associate's name on the screen. He answered it.
Buy it, he said.
All of it. She had never once asked him where the money came from. Not when he was 9 and came home with a split lip and a fistful of someone else's lunch money. Not when he was 17 and the men in the expensive cars started waiting outside their building. Not when he was 23 and the apartment in the projects became a penthouse, and the penthouse became a portfolio, and the portfolio became something that required lawyers who didn't ask questions. Diana had simply set a plate in front of him every time, had pressed her palm flat against his chest like she was checking whether his heart still beat the right way. "You are more than what this world expects of you," she told him once, standing over a stove that only worked on 2 burners, in a kitchen that smelled like cast iron and sacrifice. "Don't you ever let them make you small." He hadn't. He'd let them make him something else entirely. She had scrubbed other people's floors for 31 years to keep him fed and enrolled and alive. He had burned down half a city to repay a debt she never knew she was owed. Now she was sitting on the cold sidewalk in a coat held together by habit. And Vance was still on his phone, smiling. If you made it this far, you're not just watching, you're part of this story now. Subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Vance was mid-sentence when his own phone went cold. George watched it happen from the sidewalk, watched the color drain from the manager's face in real time, watched his mouth stop forming words. Whoever was on the other end of that call was no longer interested in Vance's version of events. George stood slowly, smoothing his jacket, and looked through the glass like it was already his window. Because it was. Double the assessed value, he had told his associate. Not because he needed the building. He needed Vance to understand exactly what he was losing and precisely why. Every zero on that transaction was a message. This is what your cruelty costs. This is what it looks like when the wrong woman gets shoved into the rain. His associate had paused for only a second. "That's 48 million, George." 48 million. George had repeated, his eyes on his grandmother. "Transfer it." Vance pushed through the revolving door now, his composure visibly unraveling at the seams. "Sir, I don't know who you think. You're terminated." George didn't look at him. "Your assistant manager is terminated. The officer has been reassigned. I made one call, it's already done." He finally turned, held Vance's gaze just long enough. "And I have personally ensured that your name appears on a list that every property group in this city references before hiring. Past tense, Mr. Vance." Vance opened his mouth. George had already looked away. Diana was trying to stand, one hand pressed to the canvas bag, still clutching it like it contained something precious. It did. The car door closed, and the city disappeared. George had instructed his driver to move without a destination. Just move. He needed 4 walls and silence, and the smell of the heated leather interior to stop his hands from shaking. Diana sat beside him, the canvas bag on her lap, both arms wrapped around it like a child protecting something the world had tried repeatedly to take. She was humming something he didn't recognize. Or maybe he did, and the recognition was too large to look at directly.
Gran.
His voice came out wrong, stripped of everything he'd spent 2 decades building over it. She looked up at him with those searching eyes, half here, half somewhere tender and distant, and reached into the bag with tremendous care. What she produced was wrapped in a paper napkin, soft at the edges, days old at least. A piece of bread. "I saved it," she said simply. "You always got so hungry after school. I didn't want you coming home to nothing." George Callahan, who had ordered men broken for lesser offenses, who had sat across tables from people who controlled governments and never once looked away, felt something in his chest give out completely. He took the bread, held it in both palms like it was consecrated.
He was still holding it when his phone rang.
The name on the screen made his blood go cold. It was the one person in the world he had specifically made sure could never find him. Stay with me until the end, because this story will shock you to the core. Before we continue, don't forget to like this video. Hit subscribe and comment where you're watching from.
Now.
He let it ring. Whoever it was could wait. The whole world could wait. For the first time in 3 years, George had something worth protecting that was still breathing, still warm, still pressing her frail hand against his like he was 9 years old, and the lights had just gone out again. He made 2 calls instead. The first converted the 002 residences into a private care facility, a Effective immediately, renovation crews mobilized by morning. The building that had shoved Diana into the rain would become the safest place in the city for every woman who looked like her, forgotten by the world, invisible to the powerful, irreplaceable to someone. He had decided that on the sidewalk. He was simply executing it now. The second call ensured Diana's new room would face the garden. She had always loved gardens. She was asleep against his shoulder before they reached the bridge, her breathing slow and even, the canvas bag still in her lap. George stared at the city lights bleeding through the rain-streaked window. His phone lit up again. Same name.
No voicemail.
Then a text. 4 words that made the bread turn to stone in his palm. We have the boy.